Hello, I'm Duncan. I'm studying the second period of Radiology Technologies at the Federal Technological University of Paraná, and I come here to present with Yuri about neuroplasticity.
Hello, I am Yuri, a third semester student of radiologic technology, and today I will present some of the main points related to neuroplasticity.
But first, in this video, I will talk about the division of the brain, then Yuri will talk about the lobes of the brain, and I will continue presenting how the brain works. The encephalon is a part of the central nervous system contained in the brain case. It is related to several functions of our body, being a fundamental structure for survival. Many think that the encephalon is just made up of the brain, and that is just one of its parts. But the term brain is often used to designate the encephalon as a whole, which is wrong. We can consider the following parts of the encephalon. Telencephalon, which is the upper part basically composed of brain. This being the most developed part of the human encephalon, it represents around 78% of the weight of this structure. It stands out for its characteristic folds, grooves, and depressions. Its divisions and functions will be explained later. The diencephalon is the central and internal region composed of thalamus, the region located just below the brain that receives sensory messages. The main function of the thalamus is to classify the stimulus and send it to appropriate processing site. It is the main input center for sensory information sent to the brain. Hypothalamus is a small structure that is related to body temperature and the biological clock. It's also related to hunger, thirst, and sexual behavior. Epithalamus. This is the region superior and posterior to the thalamus. The epithalamus includes the pineal gland, which is a source of melatonin. The cerebellum is a separate part located behind the brainstem. It is responsible for coordinating movements, ensuring body posture, and developing motor skills. This part of the brain receives information about joint position and muscle length, and monitors motor commands issued by the brain. Lastly, the brainstem, which encompasses midbrain, is responsible for integrating different types of sensory information, and is important to highlight the sensory axons involved in the hearing reside in this part of the brain or passing through it. The midbrain is also related to visual reflexes. Bridge, formed by nerve fibers that connect different parts of the brain. Its main function is to transfer information. Bulb. The structure controls a series of important automatic functions, such as heart beating and breathing. In addition, it acts on swallowing, vomiting, and coughing reflexes.
Now we will present the brain lobes. In the first place, it's important to say that brain lobes work together and have several common functions. However, let's highlight the main functions of each one. Frontal lobe. Located anteriorly, it is the region of the brain responsible for decision making, motor function, and planning. Temporal lobe. Located laterally in the brain, it is the region responsible for recognition, language comprehension, and hearing. Parietal lobe. Located on the upper part of the brain in a more posterior region, it is responsible for spatial perception and the understanding of sensory processes. Occipital lobe. Located in the most posterior region of the brain, it is primarily responsible for the interpretation of visual information such as motion perception, brightness level, and colors. Insular lobe. This lobe is located beneath the cortex and is covered by the other lobes. Its main function is to control the limbic system, which is related to the emotional response necessary for social life. With the malfunction of the limbic system, some problems such as memory loss, anxiety, depression, epilepsy, and Alzheimer may occur. Why it is important to understand the lobes and their functions, so that we can later understand the process of the brain plasticity. which through its function can alter some gears of this system, such as the adaptation of neuron uses from one area to another of an injury.
The region considered most important for cognition is the cerebral cortex, a thin layer of gray matter on the surface of the brain in which nerve cells known as neurons are concentrated, and therefore has a darker color, and is also called gray mass. The brain has a rogue appearance to expand the area covered by gray matter, allowing for more narrow connections with the other part of the brain. But the other half of the brain, the white matter, is often forgotten. White mass lies beneath of the cortex and in deeper regions of the brain. Where it is present, it connects gray mass neurons to each other. White matter is made up of several billion axons, which are like long cables that carry electrical signals, which are accelerated 100 times because they are covered by the myelin sheath, a layer of segmented fat that isolates and conducts these electrical impulses. It is important to highlight that these connections are not fixed. They can adapt to the different needs of the individual, creating more connections for the development of a skill, such as learning to play musical instruments, as there is more stimulus that is currently supported. This was the first part of our work on neuroplasticity. In the next video, I will explain about the synapses. Yuri will talk about the brain reorganization, critical points, and also give you our final considerations. Hello, welcome to the second part of our work on neuroplasticity. I'm Duncan, and I'm going to talk about synapses. Yuri will talk about brain reorganization, critical points, and also give our final considerations. Synapses are junctions between the ending of a neuron and the membrane of another neuron. They are the ones who make the connection between neighboring cells, continuing the propagation of the nerve impulse through the neural network. Nerve impulses are electrical signals that affect the ions of the neural membrane. The stimulus that occurs at some point in the neuron is transmitted through sudden charge in electrical charge, a phenomenon called action potential, which runs through the neuron. Upon reaching the end of the axon, the electrical signal is transmitted through vesicles containing neurotransmitters, chemical substances responsible for taking the stimulus to the neighboring cell. Neurotransmitters cause ions, particles with an electrical charge, to be taken from one cell to another, changing the electrical potential and generating the action potential, but without touching it directly, as there is a gap between the neuron and another, called synaptic gap.
Brain reorganization, also called neuroplasticity, is the process by which the brain forms new synaptic connections, strengthens or weakens synapses, organizes the distribution of neurons, and carries out neurogenesis, which is the formation of new neurons. This phenomenon is responsible for forming new memories and learning by performing the aforementioned processes. An interesting fact as the neurons connect or disconnect with the use and disuse of information, functioning like a circuit that alters the distribution of components according to need. Due to this molding ability, the term plasticity arises. Within the process of a brain reorganization, there are critical periods, which are the times in life when the brain has the greatest capacity to organize neurons. The main critical periods are: phase of vision, occurs from birth to 6 years old. Phase of emotional control, occurs from 9 months to 6 years old. Phase of language, happens from 9 months to 8 years old. Phase of music, from 4 years to 11 years old. Phase of second language, from 18 months to 11 years old. Although it's easier to acquire new skills during these periods, it's possible to achieve them through effort at other times in life. Based on these facts, it's also possible to analyze that after some trauma, there are indications that a region of the brain, upon losing its original function, undergoes a process in which neurons reorganize in other ways to compensate for this issue. This is similar to what was discussed in the section about brain lobes. However, in most cases, the process is slow and complex, being an area of study that still lacks a great deal of evidence regarding the real capabilities of brain plasticity and relation to injury recovery. After the presentation of these questions, it is noticeable the fact that our brain possesses complex and interesting mechanisms. Even the simplest acts of the everyday life, such as seeing, hearing, or learning something, involve a vast combination of factors to be accomplished. Now the reference will be presented.
So this was our work on neuroplasticity. This is a subject little talked about these days, but is present in our lives in practically everything because it's related to our development. Thank you very much for watching our presentation of this important topic.